Hello, everyone.
Hello there.
Matilda had an experience this past week, a small experience,
Yeah.
um, in this little village of ours, which says something about community life and so on, um, which we quite enjoy living in such a small village because community life is quite prevalent in such a
Mm.
little village. Um, and you had this experience around that, and it led to a conversation and more thoughts and so on. And we thought it would be nice to talk a little bit about that.
Mm. Yeah, so in the town there's all these little shops. It's there's no franchise in the town. And we actually love it like that. There's a bakery and there's a veggie shop and a cheese shop and one garage and a cafe and so I went into one of these shops and the attendant she was the only one she's the only one in the shop um, said that she would help me soon. She just needed to go out to somebody sitting in a car to help that person. And I said, what's wrong? And she says, he can't walk. And so I said, so do you need to go and help him get out of the car? And she said, no, I go out and I find out what it is that he wants, what he needs. And then I come back and I get his order and then I take it back to him at the car. And it was not something strange or exceptional for her. She was just telling me the situation.
Mm.
And I walked away from there afterwards and I was just thinking at how incredibly um, beautiful that was.
Mm.
That something like that was happening in the town.
Mm.
And that we're living in a town where something like that even when you are really vulnerable, that there are people there that will give the extra that will walk the extra mile for you.
Mm.
And it just made me feel so warm and safe and I was thinking of a book by Carolyn Miss, Invisible Acts of Power, which is exactly about this type
Mm. Mm.
of um, of 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 acts, little acts that isn't um, meant to be big or for a certain purpose, just because you care, because you're compassionate, because you're there, because you see the need. And I was just thinking of how important that is and what the effect of that is.
Mm. And those acts, they won't appear in newspaper
No, not
headlines.
at all.
Uh,
No.
uh, so it's minute.
Yes.
And
On the larger scale of things.
yeah, yeah. But it has a big effect. We were saying, take for instance, you live alone
Yeah.
and your health isn't good, and now you have to figure out you're going into town. How are you going to get out of your car? How are you going to get the stuff into your car? That whole
Yeah.
process. And what a difference it makes if you go and you park in front and the person inside
Sees
sees
that
your
you're there.
car.
So she knows that you need something.
Yes.
She knows the scenario. She knows what the situation is.
And she's telling you, she's not helping you first and saying, well, he was there
He was
first.
there first. He was first in the queue, although he's sitting outside in his car.
Yes, it's beautiful.
It's so beautiful.
So she says, I'll be with you now. I have to help another client. So
Yeah.
she goes out. It's really these little acts. And we were talking how that weaves the fabric of community.
Yeah, yeah. And we're wondering about city life. I mean, I lived in a city as well, and I don't think it's not there.
Yes.
I think it might take other forms,
Mm.
but I also think that we are not always living with the awareness of that. We're not really always noticing it, except when we may be doing it or when it's directly done unto us. We might be aware of it, but we are generally not so aware of these things happening around us. And I think in bigger towns and cities where the tempo is so much quicker, that might even be Yeah. And we were talking about the effect of, not just for the fabric of a community, but what the effect, the ripple effect, the chain effect
Mm,
of very small thing in one person's life can actually lead to.
mm. And uh, in our conversation, uh, we eventually came to this whole matter of the butterfly effect, that the meteor
Meteorologist, I don't know.
yeah,
That type of guy, the guy that works with the
with the
weather.
weather. Dr. Lorenz in the 1960s, he did research and he coined the phrase the butterfly effect, where he said there are such a lot of sensitive links between different aspects of weather that we can't actually predict. When something is happening here, even on a very, very small scale, according to us, the large effect, the dramatic effect it can have later on and in a total different area. He used the example of a butterfly flapping its wings in India might, through disturbances in air currents and all that, starting very, very small, that might have an effect or lead to a tornado in Idaho.
Yeah.
Uh, so it has a huge impact, according to him. And initially, he used the phrase sensitive dependence on initial conditions. So there's a sensitive dependence on things that started initially. Um,
And that opens up
yes,
that
it has a
something
chain.
follows.
Yeah.
Yeah, something follows on that. I mean, if you think of this experience today,
Mm,
it could have been nothing. She could have told me, and I could have gone away from there.
mm,
But it had an effect on me,
mm,
and that effect caused me to tell you about it,
mm,
and that started a conversation.
mm,
And now we're having this conversation, and other people are hearing
mm.
the conversation, and this might lead not even to talk about the effect of that act of kindness
No.
towards the person.
Mm-mm.
This is just like a side thing happening
Mm.
from that little initial thing.
Yes.
So it just carries on and it opens up and it opens up and it opens up,
Mm.
which is so beautiful. And in terms of maybe even connecting in a way to our definition of creativity, in terms of the infinite possibilities, it's something
Yes.
like that. You cannot actually steer it. It also has to do with chaos theory, I think.
In mathematics.
Yeah, that you cannot predict. You cannot possibly predict. And from one moment to the next, what the effect will be.
Yeah. So one can feel very despondent and say, I don't live a very dramatic or a high profile life. Does my life have any impact in this world? And we don't know whether it does.
Yeah. And I think that's what the book of Carolyn's book is about, the invisible acts of power. And what she says is these acts of kindness that we do, and that has this incredible power in terms of the effect that it has.
Yeah.
Much bigger, maybe even than that small act of kindness that was done. So it's really so. And I think also one can look at your own life and think of times that was done to you, but where we might be more sensitive to noticing need, where we could easily be kind. We can easily not, or just have a blind eye, but
So maybe you can relate to this. looking back on your life, maybe somebody who said something or suggested something or mentioned something in passing, and the big effect that had on your own life and the trajectory of your life, uh, or something that you initiated and you've experienced how it played out in somebody's life.
That would be so
Um,
interesting.
yeah.
Because this book of Karen's was written, and she used all these letters and stories that she was told and given by people that experienced this. Yeah.
So we thought of sharing this little gem with you, and maybe it starts as a little gem, but it's actually a nuclear reaction in the end.
Let's see where this one goes.
Yeah, but thank you for the opportunity in sharing that with you, and may you have a wonderful week. We talk again next week.
Goodbye, everyone.
Bye-bye.